So you did hear the State of the Nation address yesterday by President William Ruto, where he was outlining ambitious plans of how to move Kenya to be like the Asian tigers, where they came from and where they are now. He talked about various ways that he intends to do that. He also touched on education. He touched on health. But perhaps just based on our brief analysis earlier with Eric and Mariam, was there an acknowledgement of glaring gaps to really just recognize them before we now move forward to the ambitious plans that the president has? So we're joined in studio by a group, a baraza is what we're having, just to share their own take on the State of the Nation address as we go sector by sector to see what was said, what was promised, and what requires to be done. And Mariam and Eric obviously will be chiming in to just get an idea. We're doing this from 7 to 9, and you can also share your feedback and your thoughts across our social media platforms to get us your thoughts as well on the State of the Nation address. Now, as they will also be telling us a little bit about who they are, we first want to start with the MP for Kacheliba, Titus Loter, Ruto's 3-year scorecard. First of all, good morning, everybody. Mko salama? Okay. We must start in Parliament to really, understand the State of the Nation address. And so, I don't know, off the bat, people are wondering whether, and the Daily Nation said it, they say that the President's State of the Nation address makes it seem like he's out of touch with the realities of Kenyans. What are your thoughts on that statement? Is it accurate? Is it misleading?
Well, good morning.
Can hold the microphone here.
Okay, good morning and thank you. I think I want, first of all, to appreciate the fact that I am the only member of Parliament sitting in this baraza, but we are all Kenyans to discuss matters that touch the President's State of the Nation address, which is supposed to be done every year. This is the 3rd year, and I think the President has continually took the same trajectory. What it did last year, and people complained and said, probably what the President is saying is probably out of touch with the reality. He did that the first year. He's doing it now. And I think that is his mantra. That is his way of doing things. And out of all the complaints, out of all the citizens' analysis of his speech, there are those that are agreeing that it's important to be ambitious. Because if you lack ambition, then you cannot go anywhere. But there are those that are pouring cold water. And I think if you look at the kind of discussions that we are going to have, even in these discussions, in this studio today, what we're going to see is we're going to look at objective discussions, but we're also going to look at political-inced discussions. So for me, I think we're Kenyans and we need to operate on both. We will look at the objective discussions, which I will try to be part of, despite the fact that I'm a politician. But I also think it is important that our politics, which cannot be delineated from our development, is also supposed to come in, because politics and development at this particular point of history has to go together. Before we
hear from the others, I still want to bring it back to you. So are you saying that the statement that the President's State of the Nation address is out of touch with reality is an exaggeration, or do you recognize that there could be some truth to it? You've talked broadly about, yes, you're the only MP, etc., but what are your thoughts here?
Great. I think they could have some bit of reality. Because if you listen to the people that are saying the President is speaking completely out of reality, they complain about high cost of living. But if I ask you, between now and the period of 2022, when are we experiencing high cost of living? Is it now or in 2022 when people used to go to the streets with psoriasis in their heads? It is the same people are complaining about high stakes of unemployment. I agree. But at what point are we talking about a point where we did not have high levels of unemployment? In this period, the President has been able to employ over 100,000, close to 100,000 teachers. They were not there. Are they not employed? There are 430,000 people working in the housing sector. Were they employed before? No, they were not. There are 430,000 Kenyans that have actually gone to seek jobs abroad based on a strategic planned move by this government. Were they having jobs before? They were not. So sometimes we might say, and the reason why I said initially, let's look at, people sometimes want to ice these things with politics. But for reality, if we put data together, the situations have a little bit changed for the better.
I think I'm going to bring in Mariam and Eric as well. But I think there's also, while you've noted those numbers, then there's also the other side of reality, which is issues around capitation, for example, in education, issues around access to SHA. So even though, and we talked about this, even though he's outlined what he has been able to do to address the issues, has there been a recognition of the glaring gaps so that then Kenyans are able to feel like, we feel acknowledged and we can see what the roadmap is vis-a-vis tunasonga tumbele. Mariam, Eric, you can weigh in, and then as we continue to invite our panelists as well to share their thoughts.
Right. No, I think I agree with you, Janu, and I would love to hear from the other panelists. Genuinely, the minute you get the mic and you have something to say, just let us know, your name and what you do, and of course, then get into how you feel and the state of the nation. And I think we've gotten from the Honorable Titus his view, and he says, you know what, there are some truths. There have been fixes, right, for those pain points. But let's hear from anyone else who has the mic and who wants to give us their insight. State of the nation right now, as a Kenyan, for you, did you listen to the address, one? Do you agree with the president's sentiments? A lot of it has been fact-checked to be true. Do you think anything was left out unaddressed? I see someone who wants to speak. Yeah.
Let's start here. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Morning, Kenyans.
Morning.
My name is John Mark Ketora. I'm the president for the ODM Youth League, and I'm also the head of the parastatal, that is Jomo Kenyatta Foundation. And I want to thank the president that he has just appointed me for 4 months down the line. And I want first to appreciate that the president came and said, in me, I embodies a bit of Kibaki and part of Moi, and I want to appreciate him that he's an ambitious president, and it has a positive side for the country, because it makes us as a nation and as a people to also start thinking big. And definitely we are not satisfied with the state that we are as a nation, being a third world country or a developing nation. I think we have stagnated there for a long time. It is also now it's our time to rise as a country. And when we are told that there is a roadmap that will take us to the Asian's tiger, and then he gave us what is needed, I think we need to rally ourselves behind him, because if this country prospers, the prosperity will cascade down to all of us. Mm-hmm. And therefore, we all definitely want a better country. We want a flourishing country. We want an economy that thrives. And all these things, we want good education, quality education. We want good health care. We want good infrastructure. We want good things, definitely, for ourselves as a people. Mm-hmm. And therefore, when we have a president who tells us that let's walk this path, we may not achieve it within his time, even if he gets a second chance. But at least he will have outlined for us a journey, just like how Kibaki started putting up the infrastructure, started building up the economy. Mm-hmm. At least at that time, there was somewhere we have reached as a nation. Okay. And therefore, President William has come. He's speaking from there. He's giving us more elaborate plan.
So we give him time to realize the roadmap.
Definitely.
All right. I want us to allow other people to chime in. I know you have the mic and say your name. And yes, again, if you listen to the State of the Nation address and whether it spoke to any of your realities now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Consolata Wairimu Awero. I am a resident from Laikipia County. I'm also a member of New Generation Aspirants, whereby we are a crop of new leaders, specifically the Gen Zs. I'm also a student in Kenyatta University. First of all, let me say that I'm disappointed. As a student and as a young person who was, and we started this journey last year during the protest, what I saw yesterday was his usual rhetorics. You know, we are used to that, empty promises. And my question was, how about we start by fulfilling the promises he gave? And remember, this started way back during his launch of the manifesto launch. You remember the UDA manifesto? And of course, Kenyans that time were so desperate. They really wanted an alternative, and they thought that he was the best person. And you remember he received a lot of support. So I'm very, very much disappointed, specifically when you look at the education sector. I saw that he said that the capitation will increase, but I'm disappointed because when you look at the education sector, there's a lot of confusion. Right now, when you look at the junior school, the universities, in fact, the CBC system, well, it's a good system, but we do not have the resources, you know. When you go at the public schools do not have the laboratories, they do not have the equipments they need. So I keep on asking myself, I mean, why these all rhetorics? Why can't he first deal with the problems we have? And one of them is corruption. Because he might be having all these plans, but the people, you know, who are doing the job are really doing a very bad job.
Before I ask Eric to come in and Mariam, and we ask some of the others, I just wanted to ask you, some might argue he's already talked about a roadmap even to addressing some of the issues you're talking about. Does that give you a sense that he recognizes that there are gaps and he's working on them? Or are you saying, even though he's talking about what needs to be addressed, it's not enough for me? Because some people might argue, to what you're saying around education, he's talked about what he wants to do. But that's not enough for you, because why?
It's not enough for me because I feel the president is out of touch with the reality. You remember sometime, I think he was being asked by one of the journalists about, I think, a certain boy who was shot or something. And he said that didn't happen. And you know, this was all over the news. Everyone could clearly see, even a 3-year-old baby. You know, there are decisions that the president and the cabinet and the legislature, I feel that they are out of touch with the reality. And I feel that what he did was just giving the address because, you know, that is his job. And of course, he has to keep Kenyans waiting and having hope.
Let's pause there. Eric, you want to come in?
I mean, I'm getting to get the sense of the room. And then because we have 2 hours to have this baraza, it's good. Let's have the sense of the room. Consolata is saying she feels that the president is out of touch. We'll engage on that. What exactly do we feel? What do we mean when we say out of touch? What would being in touch mean? What would your, for example, opening statement have been in Parliament if you are the president? You are a new generational aspirant of leader. You want to be president one day. What would you have said if it were you? We'll come back to you, Consolata. Let's hear from the others. Javas, I think you have the mic.
Well, thank you so much, Latif. My name is Javas Bigambo. And on Fixing the Nation this morning, we look at how the president is trying to fix the country by way of the ideas that he propounded through his State of the Nation address. And people have varying views. From where I sit, and having listened to the president, and Mariam is here, she said that the fact-checking confirmed that the president's statements and statistics were correct.
Largely.
Largely correct. I don't know what percentage you give it, because that's relative. But I think the president's speech was an invitation to a paradigm shift for the country. Largely, I look at it as a pact for the future, a pact for Kenya's future. When you look at how he outlined his sentiments and his plans on matters energy, on matters infrastructure development in the country, on matters irrigation and food security, on matters of investing in human capital, it reminded me of what JF Kennedy said in his inauguration speech in 1961. And he invited Americans to his dreams and aspirations. And he said that even what he outlined may not be achieved in the first 100 days of his administration, or even the first 1,000 days, or even perhaps the lifetime of his administration. But it was if Americans would join him in beginning that journey, then the path to greatness was getting lit. And so, as I reflect on the president's remarks, I think I would say that it was a speech that was full, yes, of statistics and data. And we also saw the evidence that he gave regarding issues to do with affordable housing. We saw the statistics he gave about the path to infrastructure development in Kenya. And I think I am not averse to dreams and aspirations. Mm-hmm. Janet, I think I would say, even as we want to sink our teeth into the substance of the president's speech yesterday, I would say that we need to be a people that really believe in the future that we can build together.
Okay, Jarvis, let me pause you there just because we have to get into a break. You've raised an important, an interesting point, which is it's about us having hope. It's about recognizing that some of these changes take time, whereas a few others have argued, well, in order for us to get there, we still have to weed out the things that hold us back. So we'll come back and continue reactions around the President's State of the Nation address, which took place yesterday. We still have this conversation with Abaraza in studio. We'll come back and still get a sense from all of them whether or not they felt that it touched on their realities and the realities of a majority of Kenyans. It's coming up to 7:30. We'll be back in a moment. Just before we return to the conversation, a little bit of feedback on YouTube. I think it says the president didn't give a State of the Nation address according to the Constitution. He gave us, this is according to Sonoff, he instead gave us a campaign speech. That is Sonoff Kronos. And then we have somebody who's saying, the president clearly explained what he's done so far before giving the roadmap. That is Emmanuel Mukhasi. Somebody else here is saying, don't forget to let our MP know that Parliament is one of our greatest letdowns at the moment. You'll respond to that. There can be no sugarcoating, according to G. Kimando. Does the president have a separate Kenya that he lives in? There's a big difference between being ambitious and being delusional. That is his opinion. The three things to do, according to G. Kimando: repatriate our stolen wealth, weed out corruption. Grandiose, delusional, and unrealistic speeches won't help. You have to come down to earth, Mr. President. And a number of you continuing to show in. Our president is on the right track, according to Collins Ouma. It's high time to see beyond individual interests and focus on what we lack as a nation. So mixed reactions there. Some folks saying he's on the right track, others saying, which Kenya does he live in which now? The roadmap that he's issuing is the same one that speaks to our realities. Eric and Mariam.
I think this is absolutely normal, right? Mm-hmm. That there will be mixed reactions to a speech such as this one. True. To all speeches that are made by, a president on such a day, in terms of how you feel. There's something that you'd have wanted him to say, and if you feel that he didn't say it, then you just feel like, what was he saying? He didn't say what I wanted him to say. Or he said something that you feel that is not, it should have started from this particular point. Mm-hmm. He didn't go there. And so what happens beyond that? I think later on in this conversation, I'll come back into what I said yesterday. It's upon Parliament to interrogate such speeches, right, and come up with, what Parliament then says, yes, this works, but no, this one's that we need questions answered on this. Mm-hmm. If Parliament actually behaved as Parliament. Boom. And not as a house of standing up to shout two-term in the middle of a national speech. But anyway, let's hear back from our other people who are in the house. Arnold Maliba, I see you have the mic.
Okay.
Oh, apologies. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Robert Makoha Wangoho. I'm the president of Bunge la Mwananchi, the county of Nakuru. I'm the new generation aspirant coordinator, Rift Valley. I'm also the youth leader, Wiper, and finally, member of parliament aspirant, Nakuru Town West constituency, the year 2027. Now, thank you for the opportunity once again, and I will want to take this opportunity to beg to differ with a number of friends who have already given out their sentiments about yesterday's President's State of the Nation. That on my side, I want to say that a number of things adding up to 30% that the President mentioned yesterday, they are somehow realistic, but at the same time, why I'm begging to differ with the speech that he made yesterday is that you cannot, for example, say you have increased the funding for education sector from 490 billion Kenyan shillings to 700. At time we just learned that the free education system that was meant for our children has actually dropped all the way from 22,244 shillings to 12,780 shillings. That is something that I was eagerly waiting to hear the president mention, whether it was true or the minister that is concerned with the matters to do education was lying to the parents. Another area of concern that Kenyans are supposed actually to wake up and think twice, because I heard yesterday some of the legislatures in the House, they actually disrupted his speech by chanting two-term, meaning he was talking sense. Yes, at one point sense was being talked, but again, when you go to Bungoma County, for instance, you realize that the general hospitals there, some of the patients are sharing beds, leave alone sharing the beds alone. You realize that others are putting mattresses on the ground, and you see, some are sharing up to 3 people. So in as much as we are saying that the Ministry of Health has been restructured, yes, I may agree that KEMSA, since the year 2020, when we had the coronavirus pandemic, that is the time we all saw that there was rot in the department of KEMSA. But right now, actually, that one I may agree with him that somehow something may have done since Kembe Gitura exited the office by that time. But again, SHA is still hectic on those people who go there to get the services. At one point, I also had a sort of a young baby girl who had been taken to India for an operation. Sadly, the baby died, and what SHA covered was only actually 23,000 Kenyan shillings out of a possible 1.6 million Kenyan shillings. How do you say that you have fixed the Ministry of Health? And finally, you know, yesterday we also became happy. Much of my friends called me and told me that actually it is now time for the people of Nakuru to forget about their jam problems on the road, because Nakuru Rironi Road and Nakuru Eldoret Road was amongst the main roads that the president mentioned that was going to ensure that there is dual carriage. Okay. But what people don't know is that the fee that they are going to use on those consortium companies, you realize that toll fee that is going to be exposed on motorists, it is also going to compel this common passenger to dip
into their pockets again. Yeah. Let's pause. We'll come back and try and look at some of the sectors, but let's give you a chance to share your remarks as well.
Good morning, Janet, Eric and Mariam, and the Baraza at large. My name is Arnold Maliba. I'm the party leader of Progress Plus Alliance. And since I'm not an elected leader and I'm not working in government like some of my friends here, not even consulting for them or moonlighting, I will this morning fix the nation by telling the truth. Because until I get responsibility, then probably I could fix it differently. So I'll speak for others, speak the truth, and then probably see how we move forward as a nation. Importantly, I looked at the statement. I don't know where Mariam got the figure that, or rather the feeling that the president spoke truth largely.
Oh, it's not a feeling, it's been fact-checked. His numbers were...
The tool you used, needs a little bit of recalibration, and this is the reason. My bishop, Matthew Monde, defines truth as absolute and a lie as anything that looks like truth. So, uongo ni kitu chochote kinafanana na ukweli. A lie is anything that looks like truth. Now, The president in that speech largely spoke truth by accident. He did not go out objectively to actually put out truth. And a number of the numbers that you have looked at, I know you guys looked at it, tried to look at the numbers from an objective perspective. But if you are to become a Kenyan and look at it with reality, then you'll realize that a number of it was actually twisted. But let me speak to what I think is very, very important. What's the state of the nation from what I know? The state of the nation is that we are, as a nation, in limbo with a leadership that has no legitimacy, corruption out there, and people who simply are waiting for a better day. There is nothing good to feel about the state of the nation today. At least if you were to ask a Kenyan down here, we are on 5th floor, if you were to go downstairs and ask anyone passing around, that is what they will give you. The president read a statement of 30 pages, a 30-page statement. It was bulleted. It had 163 bullets. Every page had an average of 400 words, and therefore it means that the president, in that speech, spoke 12,000 words, averagely. And do you know what? He only mentioned corruption, the word corruption, once. But if you were to speak to people down here, I can tell you literally every Kenyan you'll talk to and ask about the problems of this country, corruption will come among top 3. But in 12,000 words, the president mentioned corruption just once. And I tend to think it was by accident, even though the president has actually been very honest when it comes to corruption. On that one, you cannot take away from it, because Kenya Kwanza did not run on the platform of fighting corruption. They have not pretended to fight corruption, they don't like to talk about it, and they don't even attempt. So on that particular bit, the president was honest, at least on the corruption part of it. On the cost of living, which is the most important thing when we talk about the state of the nation, there are 7 indicators to the cost of living. Number 1 is food. That's what everybody talks about largely. Number 2 is housing. Number 3 is transportation. Number 4 is education. Number 5 is clothing. Number 6 is health. And number 7 is recreation. When we speak about the cost of living being better, I would love to ask anybody, if you're talking about the cost of living, so there are 2 things to cost. Is it access? Is it affordability? How many people here will tell you that food is cheaper ever since the new administration came into office, that food is cheaper? And I don't want us to talk about 2022 because we had just come from COVID, we had a drought. That is a separate case. So is food cheaper? You know the answer. Anybody since this government came in, is rent cheaper now? It's part and parcel of the cost of living. A lot of times we become cliche and throw around words. Has anybody gotten a cheaper house? Has any of you had rent going down? Because now we have got this new administration with whatever they are doing. Or even the cost of construction. Has it gone down? Transportation. How many of you, I know all of you came in driving here, but how many of you, for the people you actually help, you've been told that fare has gone down? For those of you who fuel your cars, fuel has gone down? That's the cost of living. Clothing. Recently, if you've bought any cloth recently, I see a lot of new clothes around here. Are they cheaper than you bought them 2-3 years ago? Of course, people will throw in issues about inflation and stuff, but then is it affordable? Do you have much more disposable income that could actually acquire it without feeling pain? Then health. From what you know and what you've heard, when you talk about well-being, this is the anchor. Really, is the cost of healthcare lighter since they came in? And I know they will talk about 27 million people who have registered for SHA. And it's easy because many are registered, very few are covered, even fewer are served. Then finally, recreation. For those of you here who go out into nightclubs, you drink and stuff, is beer cheaper? Is going to a club cheaper? So when you talk about the cost of living around that, literally that is what Mwananchi talks about largely. Out of those 7 indicators, is anything cheaper? Of course, out of the framework that the president spoke about. I know the president is a learned man. He used to be a Christian.
Did you say you still?
I don't know whether he is still a Christian.
Okay.
But at least I know that he used to be a Christian.
Okay.
So he would know that hope is an important thing. But you know, hope is a good breakfast, but a terrible dinner.
Okay.
So just allow me to finish this in one line.
Okay, sure.
That on this, when you talk about the way forward and the framework on the way forward, the president spoke a lot of hope. He characterized his critics as high priests of pessimism. But you know, he was big on the aspirational macro. We will speak about why the president loves macro, and even a bit of what they have done today in fixing the economy. They've sorted macro largely, but they are struggling with the micro. Because at the macro level, there are two things that actually serves his interest. Number one, you get a lot of businesses to do, and he's a good businessman. That you cannot take away from him. And number two is that is how you also protect your loot.
Let's pause there. I think you've brought out thematic areas that we can explore more on. You've talked about the cost of living, health. You touched on education. You've talked about macro. So at some point, we'll try and make sure that we're able to speak to those. But I didn't want to leave out your reaction, if you have the microphone. But also the fact checking, yeah, like Mariam said, was it's not done skewed to one side. It's important that I think we're able to just fact check and see what was it that the president said that works, that kind of comes together, but what is it where he falls short? I think it's important to emphasize that.
When I spoke about the issue on fact checking, for example, look at bullet number 23, because I read the whole statement. The president speaks about that in 2022, the dollar was in a free fall. I'm just going to use one because there are so many, and I've highlighted them, but I'll use that. In 2022, at such a time as this, on 2022, the dollar was 122 shillings. It was not in free fall at that particular point. The dollar became very violent the following year when now he was putting in place his policies. So, having stabilized it at 129, you cannot therefore not take credit for having stabilized a dollar that you found at 119 on the day he was sworn in.
Okay.
So, you know, it looks like he's done some work, but realistically, if you were to go back and become, because you say, in the interest of truth,
let's allow him to, because we haven't heard from him. Please, let's allow his reactions, and then we still need to give everyone a fair chance to share their contributions.
But
yes.
Just to say, Arnold, I do understand your point, which is that it's how the facts are being framed and presented. Yes, that is well understood. So, of course, and in that position, I think we will probably all do the same, which is use the numbers to our advantage. And like you've said, again, focus on the macros without the micros. But we'll talk about that also from all of our feelings as Kenyans. Do those macros affect our daily lives, or are they just fun numbers to hear when you're pitching or giving a State of the Nation address?
Yes.
But go ahead, Paul.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Paul Inda. I'm a student at the Multimedia University of Kenya, and a student leader, that is, serving as the Speaker of the Congress from Nyatike constituency, and I'm also the chairperson of Nyatike Comrades. Yeah, so on my view about the speech that was made yesterday by the president, first of all, the first thing that I love to ask, that is this the first speech that the president is making? And if not, as the media team, have we been following, because I think this is the third speech he's making in Parliament, and he has been talking about all these things, but have we been following keenly from the first, the second, and the third? That is the first thing that I would like to say. Then the second thing that I would love to say is that I heard Mr. President saying that he wants to take the country to the level where the Singapore is. But the question that we ask ourselves, when I was looking at the TV, I think it was last week, you know, sometimes maybe we can just talk, I don't know whether because we are in Nairobi, but go to counties like Marsabit, for example. We saw how life is there. Now, Mr. President is saying that he needs to take this country to the level where Singapore is. Sometimes we need to maybe go to such countries like Marsabit and stay there even for 1 month and see how life is before maybe sometimes we speak like taking the country to the next level. Because, truth to be said, when we are talking about cost of living, it is true that such counties are really suffering. And as a comrade, I will not fail to talk about the something on education, where the president, though he has tried, and as a young person, I was taught that the little thing that someone has done, I need to appreciate. And we appreciate the good work that is doing in the education sector. But I think as a comrade and as a country, we have seen what happened in the education sector, most of the university, when our lecturers were on strike. The lecturers were on strike, immediately we come from a long holiday. If the president meant well for this, for the comrades or for the students, this thing should have been fixed when we were on the long holiday, you see. I don't want to speak much, but the last thing that I would like to say, the president said yesterday that he has tried to deliver what he promised during the campaign. And the number one thing that I would like to talk about, he promised Kenyans that 50%, I think if I'm not wrong, if I was listening keenly, 50% of his cabinets will be youths. But what we are seeing is not. Thank you.
All right. I think before we bring in Eric and Mariam, I know Javas wanted to. Did you want to make a quick reaction? We have just a minute to the break.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Of course, the first time you cut me short, we jumped into break.
Yes, go ahead.
And you know, in his next life, perhaps Arnold will be a preacher. But I find a problem when he quotes his preacher as an authority for reference on matters definition on truth. The opinion and thoughts of your pastor or your bishop cannot qualify for universal truth that everybody should be hinged to. Now, look at it this way, Arnold, my relative. When we talk about the statistics, and Mariam referenced the issue of facts as they were checked, and Janet here has affirmed. Look, is it true, for instance, that 76,000 teachers were employed?
It's true.
It's true. And Arnold here sees no truth, believes no truth, and wants no truth. Now, is it true, as even my relative a little earlier spoke, that thousands of Kenyans, including Maliba here, spends about 18 hours or 24 hours when he wants to go to his village? And because of the traffic on this road between Rironi and Nakuru, lots of Kenyans, some even coming over to Nairobi for treatment, children, old people, spend time there, and dueling that road should not be something that even Maliba and other people should frown about. Now, when you look at the first administration of Jomo Kenyatta, then the second of Moi, we had 39 years, almost 40 years compared to the children of Israel who are wandering in circular motion in the wilderness. And I can say that actually we were in the wilderness of leadership for the first 39 or 40 years in this country. We started moving when we had Kibaki. We had President Kenyatta come in and tried with the Big Four. Now we have President William Ruto. And I think it's important for us to say that we should believe that we can pull our socks from around the anklets. Now, Janet, as a matter of fact, we need to ask ourselves, if at all we had a leader who says that we cannot depend and must not depend on debt and foreign aid to finance our infrastructure development, I think if we had started on that footing, the first 20 years since independence would be in a better place. Latif, what if, for instance, we had President Kibaki, President Kenyatta, Uhuru, and President William Ruto leading this country from the beginning of this country's independence? I think would be in a far better place. And that's why I take exception, for instance, in the position of Maliba, who is a party leader. And Maliba, being a party leader, has no constructive policy alternatives to what President William Ruto has offered.
Maybe because you have not asked him yet.
To be fair, we haven't gotten there. But just let's hold Javas. We have to go on a break. We really do have to go on a break.
You guys are relatives. Maybe you've engaged at some point, but we don't know. So.
We have to break. We have to break, guys. And I will come back and Arnold will tackle that. I'm also very wary of the fact that facts are stubborn things. Yes, they, however, can be presented to fit a narrative.
They should be presented.
They should present it, yes.
If you're a good communicator.
Yes, you do use them to fit a narrative, right?
Okay.
And again, the macros versus micro, that we'll get that because I think on an ordinary Kenyan's level, those are the things that plague them. Not so much the nice numbers that are on the headlines. But let's go on a short break. #FixingTheNation You can call in the next hour as well. Send us your feedback on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, everywhere. We'll be right back discussing the state of the nation. Okay.
I think even the conversation as we continue with our baraza is looking at, is it, where do you start? Do you start by painting the entire picture of the elephant?
Yeah.
Or do you want to start by painting the picture of the elephant's leg? And then saying, let's eat the leg. And then come, okay, we finished that. That is an elephant's leg. Here is another leg.
Yeah.
And then
so on and so forth.
And so on and so forth. Or do you say, we are going to eat an elephant. And we shall put eating the elephant from this point. Lakini sasa hujaleta kisu.
You know what Eric
Because I
is
think
saying?
that's what they're saying. Because if you look at the
online,
comments, but the president needs to look for short-term wins that can be felt at the micro level. For example, put a moratorium on some of these levies that we have. We should stop this discussion. We have historical prices in the supermarkets. Get a basket of goods that are consumed by many Kenyan households. Sugar, unga, cooking oil. Do comparative analysis. Javas has been through Damascus moment. Kudos. Come back to Kenya. You must have visited us from Singapore. Right? I think if you listen to the entire reaction this time and previous speeches we always look at, okay, so the president has gone into sector by sector. He doesn't go into bigger picture of future. Yesterday is when the president actually came to Parliament and talked about a bigger picture of the future. It reminds me of the Vision 2030 moment when the Economic and Social Council was talking about Vision 2030. And people at that point were like, lakini sasa we have not dealt with corruption. We still have children who are not going to school. We still have schools that don't have teachers. And you're giving us Vision 2030 to become a middle income industrialized nation. These are false dreams. This was said then. Is it the same thing that could be happening here now? That it's a difference in perception of what we should we start with the minors, go to the majors? Should we start from the majors and look at how to tackle the minors?
And are the things that have been excluded minors? I definitely don't think so, but let's get into that. I'm seeing, the discrepancy, donge, is in what pains Kenyans versus the wins that the president is lauding, and they are there. Also a refusal to acknowledge the things that are paining Kenyans. But let me talk to the panel now. Qua ground versus these macros. And I know Arnold wanted to respond, so I'll start with you. Again, facts, stubborn things, largely true, but you have made a point about how we present the facts and to push what narrative. Now, when you talk about, when Java says, you know what, you can't argue with the way the facts are. From a micro perspective, which is everyday living for Kenyans, you've already given us some perspective, but what was missing from the President's State of the Nation address? And react to what Javas had said. Then we'll pass the mic. I know I've seen a few other people who really want to say something. Yeah.
So quickly, I had basing on the definition of truth. We are talking about different things here. There is, of course, throwing around the word statistics, but then to the common Kenyan, when you talk about statistics, they tell you about truth, the reality, what I meet at the shopkeeper's window. And you see, there are two things. I talked about 7 indicators to the cost of living, and I said, is it more affordable? Is it more, as in, is it cheaper since they came in? There are 2 ways of looking at it. Can you access it easily? Can you afford it? It might not have gone down, but then our salary is higher, because that's the other way of actually looking at the cost of living. That now our salary is higher, and can you get disposable income that can take care of that? So there are very many ways when we are looking at what we call facts. If you are to look at the 76,000 teachers that have been employed, for example, there are the people who have got issues on the same. So 76,000 is not the question. The question is that, has it been able to staff our middle level, the junior secondary appropriately? Has it? Secondly, how were they employed? When, for example, Mheshimiwa Lote here were among some of the people that were being given letters to move around and give them in funerals. I'm using him as an example. The ones that were actually captured on camera, we saw them. We know that. So there are people outside there who feel that was not done professionally. So those are issues that you need to look at. So the president was not just to speak about the economy. He was also supposed to speak about governance, speak about where we are. There are very many ways of looking at it. So when I speak about facts being twisted and spinned, of course, from a strategic communication perspective, you try to paint a picture that actually serves your interest. And that's why I said that the president said things that look like truth, but they were not truth. I would rather go with the truth because that is the language the common man understands. Otherwise, technical people like Javas here, Mheshimiwa Lote, and everybody else who is on that particular end, they will want to run with the statistical line. On the same line, Janet, I will say this, or other Mariam, on this issue of statistics and truth, the president made it look like it's an achievement that we moved or we've made the education budget from 490 billion to 700 billion. What the president then did not mention is that during the same time, government's recurrent budget has gone up by 1 trillion between 2021, when he spoke about, and now, for example. So if you are to balance, because by saying that we've increased from 490 billion to 700 billion, he's trying to portray the picture that his administration cares about education. If you were to balance the 1 trillion that we are spending, the recurrent expenditure, or rather how the budget goes up by almost 1 trillion shillings, would you really find that as a priority? It's very, very important for us to go around that. Then finally, the president spoke about Nyota. We're talking about figures. Nyota is not a new program. It's part and parcel of the old Kibaki time World Bank funded program. It's only that they have rebranded it. And you will allow me to actually finalize that with this part in Kiswahili. Of course, they try to change that particular element and call it, of course, National Youth Opportunity Towards Advancement. Of course, playing around the word nyota. Lakini unajua hii serikali haina nyota, kwa hivyo haiwezi patia mtu yoyote nyota. Hata wakienda Mavueni kule kwa Pastor Ezekiel hawawezi pata nyota because walishika Pastor Ezekiel na hata hawajai apologize for actually having arrested him free of charge. I'm just trying to think about the statistics and how they are playing around it.
Yes, nyota is an upgrade of the previous program, but it's an upgrade. It was in fewer counties, it's in all 47 counties. It had less money, this one has more money. Fewer beneficiaries, this one is targeting a bigger number. Still, World Bank supported.
To support Arnold's other point, yes, education funding up from 490 to 700. Capitation funding down from 22 to 10,000. I think that's the easiest if it's number versus number, right?
Yep.
What does this extra 200, 300 billion mean if not an increase in capitation or even a stabilization in capitation? And higher education funding as well, shambles. But go on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think your reaction.
Thank you. I think I'm meeting Arnold the first time after he's changed his name from Saul to Paul. Because the Arnold I'm here is not the Arnold that I used to know. This is a completely changed Arnold. And looking through it, I was told that now, and he's told me, that he's a leader of a political party. And there is this belief that for you to build a political party, you have to ensure that you're negative and hitting government left, right, and center. So it reaches a point for him to do that. He has to forget anything that is reality, because he's told us that there is something what is called statistics, which is not reality. He says statistics is not reality. And I do not understand that. I cannot understand that. When I'm told that now it's 8-12, that's the data that forms statistics. And he tells me that is not reality, because according to him, for him to build this political party, he says that is not reality. So what Mariam says, and I think he will agree, he will 100% agree when Mariam says that capitation has fallen. For that particular fact, for that particular data that is negative, he will say yes. But if he's told that the government has built 250,000 housing units, he will say that is not reality. And I think let us be factual when we're discussing. It is good to build a political party. It is important, but our facts remain facts. What we are discussing today is we are trying to fix this nation. And all of us are here. Nobody owns this nation. We collectively own this nation. We will leave it to our children. If we mess it up, we will leave a messed up environment for our children. I want to tell him that recently Kenya was upgraded from economy number 8 to economy number 6 in Africa. This upgrade was not because we sat down to criticize government. It is because the governments that have actually been ambitious. This Vision 2030, as much as he says Vision 2030 does not translate to anything, it has actually built this nation. It has moved this nation from economy number 8 to economy number 6. And I think if we continue with this kind of beliefs and faith that we have with our president, with ourselves, because the president says one thing that I want us to believe now, that there is no nation that is greater than its people. There is no nation that is greater. If your people are negative, your nation is going to be negative. If your people are positive and willing to work for, then we are going to move forward. What he says about the cost of living, he's asking us, have you ever seen the cost of living coming down? Let me tell you, accessibility today, when this government came in, we produced only 40,000 because that is our measure of food, maize. That is our staple food. We are producing 40,000 tons. Now, we are doing 70,000. So accessibility, Arnold, is there. And the price now, comparatively, why are you not talking about the price of maize in 2022, which was actually in 200? And in fact, you'll go to a supermarket and you're only going to be told, take only one packet. So accessibility and prices have also come down. Nobody is going around here with us free on the head. So Arnold, it is important. And I want to appreciate this comrade here. This comrade, as much as he talks about issues, and I think it's important. He says, first of all, let me appreciate that the government has done something in education. And then he goes, of course, to point on things that have not been done, which is the kind of debate that we have. Even me, as a member of parliament, I've said, well, the speech it could be there. There are things that are positive, and there are things that are negative. Let us become positive as a country for us to go forward. The people of Northeastern that are complaining, I think if you look at the infrastructural ambitions of the president, it captures everywhere. First of all, they need to appreciate no government has thought of building a road 170 kilometers. People were laughing when he said Kotulo, Tarbash. People were laughing. But now, if you go there, it's a reality. So whatever the president says, sometimes people think it's a joke. But you've seen, even now, he's constructing a road to the former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka. He was not able to do it. So sometimes I want to say that when we speak, let us be objective. For us to fix this nation, we have to be objective. We leave our party issues. We leave our political issues. Let us look at statistics. And I'll tell everybody here, statistics is not a myth. Statistics is a reality which we can operate on.
Okay.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa.
I know Consolata wants the mic. Just I think let's put to bed. Can I just put something to bed?
I am on.
Yes, no one is disagreeing with data, no one is disagreeing with facts. I think we've all agreed on that. I think it's also important to contextualize data because I can give you a number or I can give you a number within context. And that's what we want to do here today, to look at those numbers in the context of the larger picture, the larger economy, the larger political situation, so that it's not just numbers, but they have context.
Absolutely.
And I'll come back to you, Titus, because I want to talk about Parliament and the fact that Parliament has essentially been captured. If during a State of the Nation address, you can hear chants of two-term, you know, I think that speaks to something very dangerous within Parliament as a body that is meant to be checking other arms of government.
Yes.
But Consolata, shika mic.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Allow me to speak today as a passionate educator because I'm actually pursuing a bachelor's degree in education. And of course, I'm a leader because in 2027, I'll also be vying as a woman representative in Laikipia County. I'll focus mostly on education because I believe that is the heartbeat of our country. And the moment you try and mess around with the education sector, then that really means you don't care about the future of this country. Myself, I come from Laikipia, and we have a constituency called Laikipia North. The area MP is Honorable Sarah Korel. And of course, the area majorly is occupied by marginalized communities, and it's so saddening. And I'm saying this because nimekuwa kwa ground. When the lecturers were on strike, I spent my time going around Laikipia. And I saw schools, you can imagine nursery school kids, you know, they don't have classrooms. You can imagine a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old operating under a tree. What are you doing to that child? Imagine at that tender age. Of course, you make them hate school for life. And then something else, there's a lot of confusion. As a teacher, because I've gone for teaching practice, I know what I'm talking about exactly. There's a lot of confusion around the CBC system, because I believe the parents were not sensitized enough about CBC. Up to date, I've encountered parents asking me, so now what happens after grade 9? What happens after grade 8? You know, we have a problem with this government. They don't communicate the new systems they're introducing to the people. You just assume, you introduce a new system, and then you just assume everything else will fall to place. You know, parents are so much confused. They don't know what will happen after maybe grade 9, then what happens after senior school, what exactly is required for their parents to be, for their kids to be in school. And we have also seen the junior secondary teachers want autonomy. I think that's an issue they raised some time back. And for me, I feel that is important because some of these, we have seen actually teachers ukienda kwa ground. Maybe personally for me, I'm pursuing a bachelor's degree in English and literature. But because there are not enough teachers, I'll be given a subject such as agriculture. And maybe I was not good in agriculture. You see, there's a lot of confusion around that. And then something else I think the president fails to address is corruption around TSC. Teacher Service Commission is an independent body. But what happens today? You know, the parliament that we have today has disappointed us because now TSC is being used as a campaign tool by the members of parliament. Because now, instead of a fair exercise, hiring teachers in a proper manner, today you hear members of parliament saying, you know, I assisted certain teachers to get to TSC, and of course that is not a problem, but that questions the whole exercise, you know? We have also had claims and allegations, and I know anyone who is watching, I've told you that I'm an educator, I know, I've gone to teaching practice, I know, that you find that some of these people have to, you know, bribe their way in. You can imagine. We have teachers who graduated maybe in 2017, 2016, and up to date. They are not employed. Why? Because maybe you don't have the money. You don't know anyone around that. I mean, Teacher Service Commission is an independent body. And these are the issues that we are supposed to address. And if the president claims to be very serious about the education system in this country, a month ago, 2 weeks ago, the lecturers' strike just ended. And I'm university, I know. For a month or so, I was at home. Of course, maybe it was maybe to my advantage because I spent time going around Laikipia. But I can tell you, you know, and what surprised me is that business was going on as usual. No one cared that there was a strike. You know, and then, of course, you see money being given out left, right, and center in the empowerment programs. Amepeana pesa fulani. Teachers are being called to State House. They are given each 10,000 shillings, whereas the lecturers do not have their salaries. What is that?
Thank you very much. Let's get your contributions before we come to you. Yeah.
Thank you. You know, when you draw a business plan, you have to highlight some steps until you get now to the gist of what you'll want to do. And within that business plan, you must outline what are your challenges, what are the feasibility studies there, and you analyze all that. So if we are here indeed to talk about the president's speech yesterday, then what he brought out was a glimmer of hope and a walk to freedom. And first, he drew the roadmap. And then after he drew the roadmap, he said how much it will cost. Actually, he fixed it at, was it 5 trillion?
Yep.
Although that is 5 trillion at the current inflation rate. Tomorrow, if the inflation rate goes higher, definitely that cost will also increase. But at least it is what we are doing here is we are putting the cart before the horse. Because first we should be saying, so the president has drew a roadmap. He put the course on it. So how do we get there? The teething problems that has been there, in every administration, they will be there. Because we are not told that we are ready at Singapore arena. We have started our journey. So we must first acknowledge where we are and be cognizant of where we are. We are a developing country. And what is hurting us most is our economy. Because once we have an economy that is working, then we'll have the resources to tackle the challenges that we have, that we all are crying out about them. We are saying about the cost of living. Yes, indeed. But there is no government that will ever fix the cost of living. You'll be living in utopia.
You know, John Mark,
allow me to bring it out for you.
Yeah, as you conclude.
I'm not concluding because you have denied me more time to speak. and the government...
Don't deliver another State of the Nation address, please. That was done by the president.
Oh, thank you. So what we are just saying in short is that the map has been drawn. We are getting into it. And what I will urge the government to really get into it is the issue of industrialization. I think that's what we are living out. Because all those are the projects that we outline. They are not giving out projects, but they are taking in projects. When you say you want to build an infrastructure and all that. But when we insist on industrialization, we will be able now to grow the economy. And we'll be able now to empower more people, employ more youths, and get the resources now, which now we will channel into the bigger projects. So our main focus as a nation is to be very optimistic. Let's be very hopeful. Let's give the president support so that at least, because to me, I feel in every administration
there will be challenges.
There have been challenges, but there has also been some gains.
Thank you, John Mark. You are the ODM Youth League leader, and I think 2 years ago, you'd be saying what Arnold is saying today. But okay. We're going into a break. We're going into a break, and then we come back and get responses. Actually, we have not had much from Paul and Robert as well when we come back from the break. But I just want to pose it to you all that what maybe we are hearing here in the country is a president who's presenting a roadmap for the future, and a nation that is saying, let's not talk about the future before we address the present. I know there's a sort of a division here on, is talking about the future addressing the present, or should addressing the present be the focus of addressing the present for now? Because that's...
It makes sense.
It sounds to me like that is what is happening across the country. Don't tell us about the future. We still have, bread and butter issues here today. Can we talk about the todays of the university strikes and so on and so forth?
Can I be honest? It's almost a polished campaign mode when you think about it.
27 minutes after 8. We're taking a break. We're having Baraza in the studio today. We are looking at the President's State of the Nation address yesterday, what the Daily Nation has called Ruto's roadmap to Singapore. We'll be back shortly.
Of the nation. But before we go back to the panel, just quick feedback, because our Twitter users have been talking and I don't want to not air out their views. Game Changer says, most of the State of the Nation address sounded like every other rooftop declaration. More big plans about a future we don't know about. The only difference is naysayers were not addressed. Well, they were. It was, what was the word used?
Eternal pessimists.
Eternal pessimists. Yeah. Boom. Atinda, the Duke of Wasare, says, Eric, good morning. On the flip side, our commander in charge of continuous promises has made even more unbelievable promises, now calling them the true road to a first-class country or world-class country. According to him, we've already passed Singapore. Okay. Charlie says, inflation has reduced 9.6% in 2022 to 4.6%. The Kenyan shilling has stabilized to 129 shilling per USD. Foreign reserves have improved to 12 billion, and so on and so forth. He gives some of the data given in the State of the Nation address. Kilei Humphrey simply says, we are stable. Aya. Julius Cura says, instead of reporting how many people are benefiting from SHA, they report those who have registered. It's like a business reporting the number of subscribers and treating them as buyers, as opposed to the number of active users who are purchasing the product. Higher. Martha says, when we have people steal, kill, and destroy with no consequence, this cannot be overlooked. A government must do its mandate to protect those that follow laws and punish those that don't, for a people and a nation to thrive. That's another sector that was left glaring, not sector, another issue that was left glaring, which is our civil space, our human rights record, not addressed at all in the State of the Nation address, even though it has been top of mind for many Kenyans. Owar says, my cousin missed this semester's exams despite support from 4 payslips, and they say education has improved. Prezo has never called JSS teachers for a discussion despite their constant complaints. You pay 183,000 for a course to be employed as an intern for 17K, and so on and so forth.
Oof, a lot of feedback. Yeah, we didn't touch on the human rights violations, and those have been top of mind. Just before we move on to the conversation, just a bit of feedback on YouTube. It says that, let me see, Brian Dungo, unfortunately, we're being duped again. He's using 2022-2021 as base years to show growth when it suits the data. Liz Likizo, rather, B, I find it difficult to understand how people complain about corruption when they're the same ones paying or taking bribes. This is a problem that only citizens can resolve. Somebody else here was questioning the housing units. I'll try and look for it, but they were like, which 250,000? Which is true. I think that was the goal. But I think, as we saw recently, it was what, 1750 units? Mariam and Eric, it was thereabouts.
Yes.
Yeah,
thereabouts.
1,700.
1,000, yes, far from the goal. But I think you were talking about, when you talked about realistically, if we're going to talk about facts, and then you talked about the ambition, but it's fallen short of that. A few other people, let's just see if we can do about 2 more. There's no president in Kenya who's tried to implement his manifesto. This is Joseph Nyambura, like William Ruto. So give the president a break and let's just get a plan. Complaining and complaining with no alternative, as if we have a miracle worker. That's Hustler 9866. And then somebody else finally says, Brian Dungo 998, why should the president be given a break? He begged for the job, let him do it. If he lacks capacity, let him step aside.
Tell me you're a bot without telling me you're a bot.
Also,
come on.
I see
Hustler
exactly.
986,
oh, wow.
John.
Okay, hang on. I think, as Eric had said earlier, there was 2 other. You are coming. Okay, then because we need to get these perspectives as well.
No, you've gone over your round.
So, Eric's going to win now.
Yeah.
One of the reasons, Janet, why I really want us to interrogate the data that actually...
Pick
Sorry, there seems to be an issue with your mic. Can you hold your thoughts? Let's come here. We'll try and see if we can get you or put it on. But let's hear your thoughts, please, as we wait for him to...
Okay, thank you once again. My concern is drawn into a sentiment that was made by the president about agriculture. I heard him say that he has put in some efforts to ensure that the 500 billions that the government has been actually spending on imports, on foodstuffs alone, goes down by ensuring that the government moves from a net import to a net export. Unfortunately, what I can say there, sometimes we normally say that the problem with a person who lies so much is that sometimes when you're speaking the truth, it is so hard for you to differentiate. Because for us to move from a net import to a net export, that means we must also tell the farmers the truth. There was a scenario whereby we had our farmers being duped and given fertilizer that was a mixture of samadi ya ng'ombe na mchanga. Such a scenario was a serious one. And a farmer from Trans Nzoia or Western Kenya may have been waiting yesterday to hear from the president say that such a scenario happened, which led to the expulsion or rather the impeachment of my staff, who was Medical Inturi holding that docket. And he never mentioned something of the sort. Were it not for the Member of Parliament of Bumula constituency, Mr. Jack Wamboka Wanami, then Medical Inturi was being guarded by the same administration led by His Excellency William Samoei Ruto. Now, how can we move from a net import to export? Yet we have not laid down procedures that are going to ensure that there is enough productivity in our country. That's one. About the question of CBC, you realize that Madam here has said that she's a trained teacher. Maybe she has not graduated. But given that I'm the president of Bunge la Mwananchi Nakuru County, parents have come to me to complain. Some teachers have also come to me to complain, so that I speak about this on my platform, that there are hundreds of thousands of high school teachers who are yet to be trained as CBC teachers. You know, you have a degree from a recognized university in Kenya, but again, CBC is a special knowledge that is supposed to be imparted to these teachers. Now you can see there is a looming danger for these learners who are transitioning from primary school, from the grade 5, 6, 7, going to high school, yet the teachers who are supposed to take over from there, they are also not imparted with knowledge. And lastly, when we were also talking about energy in our country, you realize that President says that he plans, in 7 years' time, to ensure that we have up to 10,000 megawatts. How can that one happen if the same person is the one planning to ration power, such that when in Mombasa, people are using electricity, in Nakuru, the same electricity is supposed to be switched off? And don't you think that it is going to affect the small business people who rely on electricity, and also the big companies in our Republic of Kenya that have employed thousands of Kenyans and are running their factories and companies even at night? So let us be realistic. Let the president say what he can do in his ability, and what he cannot, it is not a must that he says. If he has been working for Kenyans, definitely Kenyans are going to re-elect him. And if not, he should not stress himself. After all, power comes and go, and he's not the first and the last president.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert. Paul Linda.
So I just wanted to plug in before money was poured downstairs, and then my microphone went off. So
make it short so that we hear from Paul as well. Paul hasn't spoken.
Okay, cool. I wanted to actually insist on this, that the reason why I'm saying that we interrogate these numbers over and above where they are is for the simple reason that if you look at it, you can actually think like we are making progress when we are not. Look at this. And Mheshimiwa Lote here, when responding to me, said that recently we have been graded as number 6, the economy number 6 in Africa. You know, if you simply take it at face value, you will not know that in 2022, Kenya was number 6. That in 2021, Kenya was number 6. In 2020, Kenya was number 6. So who was the president in 2023 when we dropped from number 6? Who was the president of Kenya when we dropped from 2024? When we talk about governance, we talk about evidence-based policy making, evidence-based policy reporting, and so forth and so forth. So if you look at these numbers, you would think that it is under President William Ruto that we actually have come from number 8 to number 6. When he took over, we were economy number 6 in Africa. So when did we drop? So how does he then present that as progress? It's not. It's important to say that numbers don't lie. That is a fact. But liars use numbers. And whereas we say that in God we trust, every other person has to bring data, the data they bring must be questioned. So that when Ketora here tells you here that let us support the president, what more support beyond giving him our pay slips, beyond giving him our vote, and beyond allowing them to actually work? Because the truth is that the president is not working because He is the one who has made us to actually allow him to work. We have allowed him to work. Because when Kenyans get tired, they will not allow him to work. So it is Kenyans who have allowed. So that support is there. So stop asking us to support the president, to remain hopeful. Hope is not a strategy. And like I said earlier on, hope is a good breakfast, but a terrible dinner. I did not want to say this, but I'll finish by saying this. That what we have seen in this state of the address, or rather state of the nation that the president actually presented, he actually brought in the foundations, the summary of his campaign message going forward, because he went big on macro. So he's talking about where he's going. Where we are, he doesn't want to talk about it. And that is why they don't want us to question these numbers. If you question these numbers, they cannot stand and last the moment in which they are mentioned.
Okay. Thank you. Paul.
Okay, thank you. I can see it is 8:46. And we need to fix the nation, right? I want to say that the president is just one person. I want to give you a scenario. When I was coming to this building, I went through, how can I call it, stairs. And I don't know why we as Kenyans, we just have to, maybe when we wake up, we just want to concentrate on the president without starting from down, from the MCS, MPs, senators, we have women reps, and we have our governors. When we want to fix the nation, I would like to say that the change starts with us. What are you doing as a Kenyan at your place where you are? Now that sometimes you see the president talks on the agriculture, what are we doing at home there where we have the farms? Yeah, because president is just one and he cannot walk into every household, fixing maybe giving you what you want. But it is also our right as Kenyans because we are paying the taxes. But what I would like to say that the change starts with us. We need to understand the president is a politician, and politicians will tell you what you love to hear. Yeah. Then the second thing about fixing the nation, and now that the president delivered his speech yesterday, and some members of parliament were chanting 2 term. That is so much. I was so much disappointed with some of our members of parliament. Now, sometimes removing president might be difficult. Now that the registration of voters is going on, and in the year 2024, that is last year, you see what happened. The youths were saying that when that time comes to register as voters, they will come out. But what we are seeing is different. The figures that the IBC is telling us is different with what the youths like us, we were saying. So I would like to encourage our youth because that let's register as voters. And if we might not find time to remove the president, let us have the members of parliament that will represent the will of the people. Thank you.
That's it.
Eric, may I go?
Go.
I will say this, that we cannot fix the nation through sound bites. And we are not here to make sound bites, but to bite deeper and chew into pulp facts in the president's speech yesterday. And there are far too many digestible issues. Now, Maliba here claims to be a person of faith. No, but your faith is not faithful. Now, look, Maliba. When the president said that 76,000 teachers have been employed, is that a change in the lives of those teachers who had no employment before? And what does that mean to the dependents of those individuals who've been employed? It means something. When we talk about, for example, recruitment of and matters inclusion across the country, even persons with disability, into the security forces, whether it is military or police, that means something. When you talk about, for example, the spirit of inclusion, or you even mentioned that the president only mentioned the word corruption once in his speech. He does not have to mention corruption 1,000 times in his speech. Look, constitutional provisions are peremptory. And that's why even campaigners or those who are aspirants for president do not have to mention corruption in their rallies. Because when you look at the values of good governance in our constitution, demand that any person holding public office must actually be accountable. And all those issues are not options. The other thing I'll tell you is this. Look at the issue of Conflict of Interest Act that is now in place. Look at the initial step that the president made formulating the multi-agency task force, which now presently has been injuncted by the courts. Look at the extent in which the EACC is recovering assets jointly with the Asset Recovery Authority from individuals, whether they are governors, etc., of former public servants, even from Nairobi City County, and those assets are recouped back into the public coffers. Now, I am not here to sing in an orchestra praising, but we have to be factual about what is real and what is true. I have asked Maliba here, across the country, for example, was there fertilizer subsidy? If it's true, then can we say that the president is factual to that extent? Comparatively, Latif, look at countries in Africa that have got infrastructure fund. Some of them, even around the world, we have got South Africa, we have got Canada, we've got India. To what extent, when we are frowning at the 11 trillion public debt that we have, to what extent and how effectively should we look at the infrastructure fund and the sovereign wealth fund that should now ease over-reliance on foreign debt to finance our infrastructure? These are issues that we should discuss and not whether Maliba likes the president or not. And if I told you it's a question of looking at the direction that the president has given with regard to a future that is not reliant on foreign aid and debt to finance infrastructure, to build our hospitals, and possibly even maybe in the not too distant future, we should have a leader who thinks about or considers having a railway from Nairobi through Marsabit all the way to Mandera to open up the country. We need to open up the country for opportunity, for growth, for development. So we must not be shy of dreams and vision.
All right. Just because of time, I had a question for Honorable Titus, and I think John Mark can also speak to the same. Convince me that Parliament is an institution that hasn't been captured by the executive when you hear terms of chance of two-term during a State of the Nation address.
Yeah, as status prepared to answer that, I wanted to imagine if I was also in that parliament, how I would have behaved. Some of those members just got carried along by their colleagues, and others walishikwa na, what do you call it?
Mori.
Yes, the emotions, because they really saw where Kenya needs to be on a mirror. You know, the country was projected, and this has been the dream of their life. On what my brother Arnold, first I want to appreciate him that he has stopped associating himself with other groupings, and now he's charting his own path as a serious politician, and he's a party leader. I want to encourage him to continue that route, but he also needs to be very objective sometimes, because when he's now here contesting about statistics, and you know those statistics has been analyzed by the newspapers today. It was analyzed by the news anchors yesterday, and it was put on some serious analysis, and most of it were in concurrence. Most of them were in concurrence that indeed the country was in the right trajectory, and what the president projected is indeed something that has been accomplished. I saw something on production, on milk. I saw something on roads that has been tarmacked. I saw something on education, affordable housing. There were a lot of good analysis that was done. And I think that is the way we need to go as a country. Let's be very objective, so that we don't just criticize for the sake of criticizing, so that we get to be cheered on, or we get to impress another part of the society. But we do it objectively. We know, and we are all cognizant that we are still in a serious challenges economically.
Okay.
So, but we are fighting to gain our freedom. We are fighting to be the Singapore that we had always admired to be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mheshimiwa, you have 2 minutes, please.
Well, I've been given 2 minutes to respond to whether Parliament is being captured or Parliament is independent. I want to say from the beginning of my 2 minutes that yesterday, the parliamentarians that were in there were not the same numbers as the parliamentarians that have been there in the previous speeches. Basically telling you that politics, we've already been to the seasons of politics. And I said in the beginning of my speech, I said, we might be looking at facts, we might be looking at reality, but we are also lacing these things now with politics. So the people that were absent from Parliament yesterday probably are people that did not feel that President Ruto need to be elected. And so the people that were in there were people that believe that Ruto is delivering. And so emotionally, they erupted 2 times because they saw the president highlighting things that are reality. When the president said that there are people from NHIF 7 million to 22 million on SHA, it is a reality. When the president says, and I want to appreciate one thing that has been said here, that now we are talking about power rationing. It is a negative thing, but it's also a positive thing, because it is indicated that there's something the government has done that has actually improved the consumption of power. We've actually seen electricity now being spread across this country, and we've seen industries coming in. And so we are falling shortage of power. And the reason why, as much as we are doing power rationing, the president said that he wants now to do another 10,000 megawatts of electricity. It basically tells you that what the president was highlighting yesterday in Parliament were things that the members of Parliament elected by Kenyans have actually seen that they're working. They are not dummies. They saw reality, and they erupted emotionally because of that reality. As much as I am not for the view that we will have done that, what you want to see in Parliament as to whether parliamentarians have been captured or not is the beginning of next week, when we now start discussing the state of the nation address in Parliament. I will ask every Kenyan to listen to what the parliamentarians will be saying. And I think it is at that point that we will judge whether Parliament is captured or not. At this point, emotionally, everybody is emotional. When you see a good thing, you can be allowed to say what you said 2 times if you are a 2-term person. But we also had members that were trying to, well, that is it. So Parliament, as I mean, is not captured.
Is not captured. All right. Thank you. That's what we have time for. I think this was a very important conversation to have. Thank you all for your perspectives. Thank you for your views. And thank you as well for continuing to participate across our digital platforms. We are coming into the next hour where we highlight this incredible generational shift and emergence of a new sound in music, of a genre that's been there even ahead of the time of the artist. It's coming up to 9 a.m. We'll come back to have that conversation. Fixing the Nation, one conversation at a time.